Hey there, self-care warriors. Welcome back to Self-Care Haven. I'm working with a new camera today, so I hope you enjoy the view a little bit more since it has a little bit more detail this time around. And today I want to talk to you about perhaps one of the most important topics there is in the journey to healing and recovery from a narcissistic abuser, and really a revolution in our own self-care, and that is breaking up with a narcissist. So you might be wondering, well, I'm still in this abusive relationship, I'm still in this toxic relationship, how do I get out? Or perhaps you're in a different situation. Maybe you're co-parenting with a narcissist and they're still hoovering you. How do I get out of that cycle? How do I reduce the drama and the chaos that they're bringing into my life? Or perhaps you're in a third kind of battle where you're still in contact with a narcissist for some reason and you're looking for a way to detach and get out once and for all. And I want to share with you some tips that I talk about in my books, as well as some insights about the cocktail of emotions that survivors often face when they leave a narcissistic abuser, right? So when it comes to breaking up with a narcissist, it's very, very specific to your circumstances, because one survivor's journey is not going to be the same as another survivor's. So, one survivor might be married to her or his narcissist for 10 plus years. They might have children together. Another survivor might be newly married and they might suddenly realize that there are these red flags popping up right after the idealization phase. They're not communicating well. For some reason, he or she is raging at them. For some reason, there's these nonsensical arguments that are beginning, right? And then there's other scenarios. Maybe you just started dating someone and you start realizing some red flags, but you're already kind of invested in this person. There's so many different stages that you can be at when you're in a sort of relationship or some sort of interaction with a narcissistic abuser. Of course, the less invested you are, the easier, I would hope, it is to get away. Because if you are only 2 months into dating a narcissist, you'll have less memories to hold on to. You'll have less of a strong trauma bond. They may have traumatized you, but they haven't done it for such a long period of time where you've developed a sense of pervasive helplessness. Now, if you were raised by narcissistic parents, that's a different story, because you might have a pattern of getting into relationships with very toxic partners, whether they have narcissistic personality disorder or whether they're just emotionally unavailable. You might find yourself following your subconscious programming and wounding, and basically ending up with people who reflect the very, very toxic individuals that served as the caretakers in your early life, your early childhood. And that, of course, affects the early developing brain, our interpersonal behavior, our beliefs about ourselves, about the world, our sense of safety in the world, the coherence of our identity. It affects a lot of things, right? So if you are in that situation, it's going to be a little bit tougher. It's not impossible, but it's going to be a little bit tougher than perhaps someone who has always been treated in a very, very, very supportive manner, in a very validating environment since they were children, because people who grow up in validating environments learn how to validate themselves. They learn how to trust their own emotions. They learn how to trust their own gut instincts. Now, the downfall, or I should say the drawback of having such a validating childhood, is that sometimes you're not even aware that there might be red flags to look out for. You're not as hypervigilant as a childhood abuse survivor would be, right? So there's, different drawbacks in each set of circumstances, and each survivor has unique sort of challenges and obstacles in the path to breaking up with a narcissistic abuser. Now, no matter what your circumstances are, there's no doubt in my mind that it's going to be challenging, but there is absolutely no greater relief than you can feel than finally forging the path to freedom. Now, you might not feel the relief right away. Some of you may, right after you break up, maybe you do feel it right away. Others might take a long time. It might take a long time to get through the grieving process and finally feel a sense of peace and joy and relief. But no matter how long it takes you, you will get there. I guarantee you, you will get there to that sense of relief and to the sense of maybe not closure, but perhaps a sense of validation that you have escaped something that would have otherwise destroyed every facet of your identity, every facet of your life, right? Because when we think about it, there are levels of investment to this. If you are in a relationship with a narcissistic abuser, no matter how long you've stayed, there is always time to leave. There is always time to be able to get out, even if you've stayed with a narcissistic abuser for 20 plus years, even if your circumstances seem impossible. Where there's a will, there will be a way. And if you are, for some reason, forced to stay with your abuser, there are also ways to cope with it. There are also ways to gain support and focus on your self-care. But what I wish for every survivor is that they're able to escape their abusers, because the level of freedom and the potential for making new memories, meeting new people, and connecting with your true authentic self is unbelievable. And you can't really do that when you're with a narcissistic abuser. You can, of course, achieve some level of self-actualization and success, but you may never be able to achieve what you would have if you had left your abuser. Now, this is not to shame or criticize anybody who is with a narcissistic abuser. It is very difficult to leave. The trauma bond is strong. You may have had the impact of abuse. It stays with you in your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit for a long time, even after you leave. And it's very difficult to recover. But that does not mean that you can't do what you can do in your particular situation to help yourself heal. So in terms of, first of all, breaking up, there are several different ways that you can do this. It depends on the level of danger involved, because if you're in a physically violent relationship with a narcissistic abuser, I would recommend that you make a safety plan and try to get out. Notify your friends, your family members, people who you can trust. Consult with your local domestic violence center. Make a safety plan. You don't want to put yourself at risk. If you have children, find out the laws in your state regarding custody, and if you can take your children with you, how you can take them with you safely. Consult with a lawyer, someone who would know this, someone who would be able to help you protect yourself and your children. If you are not in a violent relationship, but you are in an emotionally abusive one, and you don't currently live together, the process is a little bit easier. It's no less heartbreaking, but it is easier in a practical sense, because you have less to worry about in terms of the financial situation, in terms of the home and who leaves, who stays, and things like that. So if you already are living in your own place, you've already got that set, right? You already have a place to go. Just ensure that that you are safe wherever you live, and that the abuser is unable to reach you or contact you. Block their number, block their email, block everything you can. If you have security, make sure that the security knows that you do not wish this person to enter the premises. If you don't have security, just let any sort of neighbors that you trust know that that you do not feel comfortable with this person in the residence, and you don't think it would be safe for anybody else in this house either, living in the residence either. The thing that I find would be helpful is to create a sort of date for the breakup. Even if you don't have a set date, what would help is having an estimate of how many months you think you can take this, because unless you can just go cold turkey and just leave right away, it can be helpful to look at the date as an aspiration. It can be helpful to look at your calendar and think, oh, May 12th, that's when I'm going to leave. And then no matter what, you do it. Another way is, of course, going cold turkey. cut off all contact. And usually this is preceded by what I like to call the last straw method. The last straw method is when you've taken so much crap and your pain threshold has really taken a hit, and you decide the next time that this person disrespects me, belittles me, criticizes me, whatever, makes me feel small, I'm out. No excuses, no more rationalization, no more minimization, no more denial. I'm out, I'm leaving, I've had enough. And with this, you go cold turkey. You cut off all contact. Again, if you have children with the narcissist, you're gonna have to figure out how to do low contact. But if you don't have children, if you don't live together, it's gonna be so much easier to just detach. At least physically, right? Emotionally is a different matter, but physically at least you can detach. And then once you're out of their kind of tentacles, out of their emotional vampirism and their reach, you start to realize little by little, hey, I can survive. I am way stronger than I gave myself credit for. And once you realize that, and once you're out, you just have to stick to it, day by day, minute by minute, hour by hour. It is a life or death situation in a sense, because it is about your emotional safety, your emotional health, your mental health, right? The more time that you spend investing in this fake relationship, and I really enjoy using that term because when I first read the book Psychopath Free, I was amazed at how much it described so much of what I'd been through. And not only that, but one of the suggestions was taking away all reminders from your home, your sacred spaces of the narcissistic abuser, basically ridding yourself of any reminder of this fake relationship. And I thought that was such an amazing way to put it, because it really is a fake relationship, isn't it? It's two people, and you are the only one who's authentic. You're the only one who's actually giving your love, your care, your compassion. And the other person might as well be a non-entity for all that they care about you, right? Because they don't have the same level of compassion, or they don't have the ability to validate your emotions. They don't have the ability to support you in any kind of emotionally healthy way. You're the only one that's providing. You're the only one who is reciprocating. You're the only one who truly cares about the welfare of the other person. And when you think about it that way, it helps you desensitize to perhaps the romanticization you had of that relationship. Instead of thinking, oh, well, that person and I shared so many beautiful memories, you start to think, that person was along with me when we had those amazing memories, but they weren't all there, right? And that's the nicest way I can put it. But basically, they were not all there. And you had so much more to do with the potential of that relationship than they ever had. They weren't able to give you anything that you really wanted and desired authentically, because they don't have it in them emotionally to give. Now, even if you don't want to blame the narcissist in any way, even if you have absolved the narcissist of all blame, you have to admit that it would have gone nowhere, no matter what. This was not someone that you could have tolerated for that long without basically having a breakdown yourself. Narcissistic abuse takes a huge toll on victims. They become emotionally erratic themselves over time because of the effects of trauma, because of the effects of chronic abuse. We might even pick up fleas from the narcissistic abuser, and we might start to act in ways that are uncharacteristic of our normal levels of empathy, our normal levels of emotional stability. And that has to do with the effects of chronic abuse. That is why no contact is so important to detoxifying your body, your mind, your spirit of this emotional vampire who's basically been an emotional leech, sucking your lifeblood dry. If you noticed, you perhaps met the narcissist when they were either at their worst, or perhaps you met them when they were at their best, but usually victims meet their narcissists when they're at their worst, right? They might not have any kind of dreams going on, any kind of goals, or maybe they're low on their luck, and then they meet this beautiful empathic person, this victim, and they drain the hell out of that victim. They drain all the energy they can, slowly but surely, after the idealization phase. And once that happens, guess who comes out on top? The narcissistic abuser. Suddenly, they've got it all going on. They've lost that weight. They've gotten that new job. They've done all this stuff. And it's because they got so much energy and supply from you. You were the one supplying them with all this level of love and encouragement and support. You are mirroring to them what they have always wanted to feel about themselves. The false grandiose self, at least. And once you've given them all of that, they need to devalue you because they need to forget the fact that you ever existed. They need to expunge you from the record because to them, their greatness is what got them to the top, not your support. And so they feel perfectly entitled to abuse, mistreat you, and you become an emotional punching bag. When you go no contact, they lose control, they lose power. Their sort of emotional vampirism has no life source anymore. It's been cut off. And that is why no contact is so powerful, why it's so important. And if you're going low contact, use the gray rock method as much as you can for at least a short-term coping mechanism, because if you are giving your narcissistic abuser emotional supply, they will feed off of it, and I guarantee you they will use that energy for themselves to bolster themselves and their false grandiose ego. And you're not going to benefit from it at all. It was never about you when it comes to the narcissist, right? It's all about them. So don't take it personally. Don't take it as a rejection after you've broken up with the narcissistic abuser that they were never willing to fight for you, or they were never willing to change or do this or that or take accountability. It's not personal. Their insults are personal. Their covert put-downs are tailored towards you specifically because they know what makes you hurt. But in the end, none of it matters because you are still the person that they used to bolster themselves. You had that beautiful energy. You are the life source. You are the powerful being. You are the person who supplied them with everything that they needed, right? And that means you have an amazing source of light and empathy that you can be using to heal yourself and heal your own life, right? Now, grief is going to come in stages. You might not be sure when this sort of numb feeling is over, because often what happens in the breakup with a narcissistic abuser is that we feel numb. We feel like either there's been a great sort of relief because we've released this amazing burden that has been holding us back and holding us down, accompanied by a numbing of our emotions because we're not fully processing what's happening. It's such a shock to us. Even if we were the ones who initiated the breakup, it's still going to be a little bit shocking to our system. And that is the most vulnerable period where the narcissistic abuser can come in and hoover and try to get us back into the abuse cycle, right? Pretending that they've changed, pretending that they will change, pretending that they are so sorry for all of their cruelty, right? Now, if they were really that sorry, they would have changed during the relationship, not after you had reached your pain threshold. They would not have subjected you to so much pain if they were truly sorry and if they were truly remorseful for their actions. So remember that if they try to hoover you, right? Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with hoovering, it's just a term to describe a narcissistic abuser trying to swoop in after the ending of a relationship with their victim and basically try to suck back the victim into their traumatic vortex, just like a Hoover vacuum, right? So when you are being hoovered by a narcissistic abuser, rest assured it's all about power and control. It's not about loving you or missing you or feeling remorse. It's not about changing. If they want to go out and change, they're going to have to do it alone. You've given them all the help. They've already, gotten all this opportunity to gain your support. But now they are going to have to go out and change if they really want to. And it can't be for you or anybody else. It has to be for themselves. Narcissists cannot change for anybody else. It has to be self-motivated. They would have to want to change because of something that they want, because that is how a narcissist's mind works. They feel entitled, they feel like they're the center of the universe, they are grandiose, and unless they face the sort of fractured identity and the false self that they've been using to masquerade as a quote-unquote real person, and of course they're real people in the sense that they're human beings just like us, but they are missing this core identity. And so this core identity that I'm talking about is the one that has empathy and remorse and the capacity for compassion, the capacity for connecting with others. They're missing that. They're missing a sense of self. They're missing a sense of who they really are. And they often don't care to get help. They don't care enough to really seek out help and to seek out things and resources that might help them heal. Because they are so grandiose, because they feel superior and entitled, because they don't think there's anything wrong with them. So it's very unlikely that a malignant narcissist, someone who's very high on the spectrum, would actually seek out therapy in order to get help. They would probably use therapy as a site or a playground of sorts for further manipulation and gaslighting, which is why the National Domestic Violence Hotline actually does not recommend that you get couples counseling with your abuser, because abusers have ways of manipulating therapists, triangulating them with their victims, and making their victims seem like the abusers, right? So during this sort of breakup, healing, recovery process, if you've done couples counseling, don't do that again. And if you haven't and you were considering it, you may want to reconsider, because it is going to be a battlefield in that therapy space. And you might not be the one leaving feeling healed, right? The narcissist will perhaps emerge the triumphant one when it comes to that, because they're very good at false masks. They're very good at being the rational, calm, cool person, laughing and smiling, watching while their victim goes crazy. And by crazy, I mean reacting normally in an outraged way to abnormal, abusive, vicious, cruel, inhumane behavior. And of course, narcissists have ways of committing microaggressions against you, so that each little tiny act of violence, psychological violence, triggers a whole chain reaction of other things that they've done. And they can easily trigger you in that therapy space by saying one catchphrase or word that they know will get under your skin, because it reminds you of the time that they did this and that, or they abused you and said something else, or they're gaslighting you, or projecting, or, you know, putting you down covertly. There's so many ways that they can do that, right? So when you're breaking up with a narcissist and you're trying to figure out if there's any other options and couples counseling crosses your mind, try to reconsider that, because it may not be helpful and it can actually be re-traumatizing, especially if you happen to run into a counselor who does not understand narcissistic abuse, which actually can happen. There's many counselors, unfortunately, who are not aware of this type of covert abuse. Now, they might have a general understanding of personality disorders, but they may have never encountered a narcissist or was even aware that they have. So they don't understand the dynamics of this type of covert abuse. So it's really up to you as the victim to advocate for yourself and learn what's best for you. Consult domestic violence shelters, see if they have any free counseling services. Consult coaches on emotional abuse, consult therapists who are well versed in narcissistic abuse. Find support in friends and family members during this time that you feel you can trust. Journal about the abusive incidents to keep yourself on track and in touch with your own reality and away from the gaslighting attempts of your abuser. When you're going no contact, cut contact with the harem members of the narcissistic abuser if you're still in contact with any of them. They're not going to help you in this healing process unless they've seen the narcissist false mask drop. And even if they've seen that mask slip, they may still side with the narcissistic abuser, simply because they've either known them longer, or they have some sort of investment or some sort of other relationship with the narcissistic abuser, whether they're another source of supply for the narcissist and the narcissist has duped them into believing that they have some sort of special relationship, or maybe it could be a sibling or family member, a parent, a long-term friend, a childhood friend, anything, you know. They could have some sort of rapport, what I like to call a perpetual idealization phase without discard. And this often happens between a harem member and a narcissistic abuser. And they're not going to be willing to ever believe that their precious narcissistic abuser, or whoever they call him or her, their friend, their family member, is in any way an abusive person, because they haven't seen the mask slip. So that's another tip that I would have for no contact and breaking up, is minimize the pain, minimize any type of triggers, any type of reminders of this fake relationship. Exorcise it out of your home, out of your sacred spaces. Find pathways to healing. Find alternative and traditional modes of healing. You know, get that amazing trauma-informed therapist if you can find him or her. Get that life coach. Get that that amazing meditation class membership. Get that yoga membership. Get into yourself and out of the head of the narcissist. Stop doubting yourself. Stop overthinking and self-doubting and second-guessing yourself. What you experienced was real. If you had someone who tormented you and continually abused you despite your feedback about their cruelty, that is someone who is not willing to change. That is someone who is abusive and they don't care. Get in touch with your own reality. And in terms of alternative healing methods, there's so many different things out there that can help you. I recently discovered a healing modality that I didn't even know was out there, and that is called sound therapy. And I attended a sound bath class, which is basically where you lie down, you know, you kind of have blankets over you, and you basically lay down, and this instructor, who is a certified sound therapist, goes around with crystals and tuning forks and Himalayan singing bowls, and she makes the most beautiful sounds that are so healing. And I just couldn't believe how much it healed me and how much my energy shifted after that sound therapy session. I have never tried sound therapy outside of YouTube videos, so it was an amazing experience for me. And that just goes to show, you never know what might be healing for you. You never know. You might underestimate certain things, thinking, oh, well, I have no evidence that that's going to heal me, or, you know, that's more of an energetic healing method. Do not underestimate energetic healing methods. Those are the things that can get into your subconscious wounding and heal it, which hours of talk therapy might not be able to do, because a lot of healing needs to take place in the body, in the spirit, right? It can't just exist in terms of the mind itself. We can intellectually talk about narcissism for years, but unless you're taking practical actions, your healing journey is incomplete, because it needs to account for the subconscious wounding. It needs to account for the negative self-talk. It needs to account for the way our body has visceral reactions to triggers and traumas, right? And tiny and big terrors. There is so much to explore when it comes to the healing journey. There's so many ways to heal. So never underestimate a healing method, especially during the no contact journey, because all of it counts. Every little bit. Every article that you can find, every video that you can watch, every teacher who's ever come across your path, find them, seek them out, take advantage of the resources everywhere and anywhere. Years ago, when I first started vlogging, there was not nearly enough resources as there are now. There's now a multitude of resources out there for narcissistic abuse, and I'm so happy and so grateful for that, because survivors can now search narcissistic abuse and they will find a plethora of things to learn more about, different ways of healing, different survivor stories and insights, and expert opinions. And that just amazes me, and I'm so grateful for all of that, because there's so much variety in the survivor community now. You can literally pick and choose which healing resource best fits your journey, and you can combine them and you can choose to focus on one for weeks, or you can choose to focus on several. But either way, every day you have a new opportunity and a new sort of pathway to healing that you might have never considered before. So whether it's sound therapy or a Reiki meditation session, or even a healing massage, whatever it is, find a way to access that portal to healing some sort of terror in your body and in your mind and your soul that you've experienced. Because a lot of what narcissistic abuse is terror, right? It's the terror that lives in our bodies. It's the hypervigilance. It's the effects of gaslighting. It's the effects of projection. It's the effects of the verbal and emotional psychological warfare that you experience every day. It's the negative self-talk that is a record that plays in your head even after the abuser leaves or you leave the abuser. So even after you've broken up with the narcissistic abuser, no matter what way you did it, there are going to be challenges. There's going to be unique obstacles depending on your circumstances. But you have to have the faith that you will overcome each and every one of them. Because this is really a life or death situation. It is about the quality of your mental health. And it is so important for you to prioritize that above all else in the healing journey. So if there are resources that no longer serve you, it's okay to cut them out of your life. If there are friends or family members who don't support you during this time, it's okay to get distance from them. You know, some of them may actually be toxic themselves, and you have to get distance from toxic people who don't support or validate you, right? Because what is the point of having a support system if they're not there to support you in the first place when you really need it? You need friends who are gonna be there for you in the worst of times, not just the best of times when you're celebrating. And you know, the people who are duped by the narcissist deserve the narcissist in a sense. I don't mean that they deserve the abuse, but I just mean that if they're gonna go at their own pace in realizing who the narcissist is, let them go on their own journey. You have to focus back on yourself, right? And if you're being threatened by the narcissist, if you are being slandered or smeared, find ways to take your power back. Whether it's consulting with a lawyer, getting a private investigator, I don't care what it is, do it. Whether it's getting a protection order or restraining order, I don't care what it is, find a way to learn more about it so you can implement it to save your own life. This is all about saving yourself, becoming your own savior. And you're gonna have to advocate for yourself after the breakup, because no matter how much support anybody else can give you, you have to believe in yourself and your faith to get past the worst moments of your life. And breaking up with a narcissistic abuser can be, yes, one of the most freeing, empowering, and one of the most, amazing sources of relief that you can ever experience in your life. But it can also be incredibly challenging as well. It can be wrought with a lot of fear, especially if the narcissist is hoovering or threatening you or smearing you or threatening to smear you or slander you in some way. But what you have to remember is that they had to get your lifeblood to make themselves seem big. That means somewhere within you is this amazing light, and it's never gonna go away. They can never take it from you. You will always have it within you. And you have it right now, watching this video or, reading a blog or doing whatever you do in your daily life. Wherever you go, it's always within you. And you can tap into that light and power whenever you need it. You already have, because you've survived, right? You're already there. You've already survived the worst moments of your life. And that means that you also have the potential to thrive as well. So I hope this video has been inspiring to you. Let me know in the comment section below what sort of emotions you experienced in breaking up with the narcissist. If there's a method for breaking up with the narcissist that you'd like to share that you found effective, let other survivors benefit from your wisdom. And I look forward to hearing your insights about this. What makes breaking up with a narcissist so different from breaking up with a normal partner? And of course, I know that you guys know all the answers to this because you've faced all of the hardships of it, right? It's not a normal breakup. I talk about more about those differences in another video, which I'll link to in this video, but I'm excited to hear your thoughts on this. So I hope you have found this video validating and helpful, and I look forward to your insights. Until next time, take care.